Hi, this is Rachel with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make the Scarborough necklace. This is a bead woven necklace, and it incorporates 3-hole Cali beads, Swarovski crystal bicones, and Czech glass mushroom beads along the outside, and it has a built-in jump ring here so you can easily hang a chain. Before we get started, I just want to show you a little bit more about these Cali beads because they're really cool. This is a Czech glass 3-hole bead, and as you can see, it's plump in the middle and tapered on the ends. And it's about 4 millimeters by 8 millimeters with a 3 millimeter side here. So they're great for bead weaving or multi-strand projects as a spacer between beads. Really cool and versatile. So as you can see, they come in a lot of different colors and finishes. Starting over here, we have Capri gold and peach luster. And over here, we have purple Vega iris. This is what I used in the project over here. And up here we have white travertine blue and just a range of really pretty colors that match a lot of our other Czech glass beads that we have available. So today we're going to make a color variation of this necklace, and for that you'll need some Cali beads in this opaque light blue luster color. It's kind of minty. You'll also need some Swarovski crystal 3 millimeter bicones in crystal metallic sunshine, and some Czech glass mushroom beads in crystal slipperit. You'll need a closed jump ring, I have one in gold, and a finished chain necklace to hang the piece when you're done. And for the sewing, I've gone ahead and cut about 5 feet of fire line in smoke and threaded a size 12 beading needle, and you'll also need some thread snips. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is pick up your needle and string 1 Cali bead by one of the end holes, 1 crystal bicone, and 1 Cali bead, and you'll slide these down almost to the end of your thread, leaving a bit of a tail, a couple inches. And now you will just bend your thread so the 2 Cali beads are sitting on top of each other, like so, and pick up another bicone and sew through the initial hole of that first Cali bead you picked up, crossing your thread tail. Okay, and now we're going to make a little knot for security. Try not to catch your crystal there. Okay, and now we're just going to keep sewing around this little circle we made. And if you notice, if you're familiar with right angle weave, what we're doing right now is very similar to right angle weave. So now I'm sewing back through the hole of that second Cali bead I picked up, as well as the second bicone that I picked up. And now over here, I'm going to pick up another Cali bead by the end hole, another bicone, and another Cali bead. And slide those down. Bend the thread so the 2 Cali beads are basically sitting on top of each other. And now you can see that this is another unit, very much like right angle weave. So now we're going to sew through that middle bicone there that connects these 2 units that we're building. Back through this Cali bead, just around the circle, exactly like you do with right angle weave. And we have a video on how to do basic right angle weave if you want to have a refresher. And I'm going to sew back up through the bicone on the end. So you can see what we're doing here is creating these units that look like right angle weave from the top, but you're creating this double-decker stack of Cali beads here that are sewn up along one end. And you're just going to keep on going and doing that. So 1 Cali bead, 1 bicone, and 1 Cali bead. Slide those down so you can see them falling into place. Bend your thread around so they're laying on top of each other. And sew up through this bicone from the previous unit that connects them. And then just keep sewing around the circle, so through the top hole of this Cali bead on the end, and through the bicone on the end. And you're just going to keep repeating this. You're actually going to keep going, sewing around in little circles, adding more and more Cali bead and bicone units until you have a double-decker stack that is 14 beads long. So right now, this stack is 3 beads long, and you want a long strip because we're going to weave it around in a circle. Like in this piece, this is the initial strip, and we just turned it around in a circle. So keep going here until your strip of woven beads is 14 beads long. You'll use 28 Cali beads total, and I'll see you back here when you're at that point. Okay, so now your strip of Cali beads is 14 beads long, and at this point we're going to take this piece and close it up into a circle. So just bring the two ends around like so, and you're going to complete a partial right angle weave unit here to close these up. So we have bicones on both of the ends of the piece. So what you're going to do is pick up one Cali bead by the end hole and sew up through the bicone on the other end of the piece. And now you're going to add the second Cali bead of this last end unit here. So now try to do this in a way that you can see. So now we'll sew down through the bicone on the second end of the piece. And what we did is we just created a right angle weave unit using the 2 bicones that already existed on the 2 ends of your strip, and we just close it up into a circle. So now I'm going to keep sewing around through this last unit that we just created to reinforce it, through the Cali bead, up through this bicone, through the Cali bead on the other side, and I'm going to make a little security knot just to make sure that this is nice and put together. Okay, so now your piece is closed up into a circle, and it's a very floppy circle because only one side is closed up with these bicones. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew to the other side of the circle. So I just sewed into the next Cali bead over. I'm going to sew through its middle hole. And then out through the third hole on the other end of that bead. And now I'm going to flip our little beaded wheel over. And yes, it is very floppy. We're going to fix that. All right, so over here, our thread is coming out this end hole of a Cali bead on the outside of the wheel. So in order to create the same kind of units on this side of the wheel, what I'm going to do is pick up one bicone, sew through the Cali bead on the inside of the wheel, and pick up another bicone, and back through the Cali bead on the top of the wheel. So now we just created a unit that looks just like the right angle weave units that we did on the first side of this circular piece. I'm going to sew back through this bicone on the end again. And now I'm going to grip the next 2 Cali beads over on the circle. I'm going to sew through the inner bottom hole, and this last bicone we added that's half of this unit here. So we're just going to pick up one bicone on the other side, sew through the Cali bead on the top, and then keep sewing around the circle, back through this initial bicone. Oh, get the thread tail out of the way. Back through the Cali bead on the bottom, and back up through this last bicone that we added. So now you can see that we're just closing up the circle. I'll do one more just to keep showing you. So coming out through this bicone we just added, we're going to sew through the Cali bead next door, pick up a bicone, sew through the bottom Cali bead, just tightening that unit up, and then keep sewing around through the circle. Back up through the anchoring bicone, through the Cali bead on top of the wheel, back through the bicone that we just added. All right, so you're just going to keep doing that all the way around the circle. Just keep lining up the next unit of Cali beads and creating these little units, just sewing them together using bicones. And that's going to give this wheel a good tight structure. No more Cali beads flopping around waiting for a home. So just keep going around the circle and doing that, closing up each of these subsequent units with bicones, and continuing this right angle weave pattern on this side of the wheel. And I'll see you back here when you've completed your wheel. Now I'm almost done sewing up the second side of my wheel, and I just want to show you the last stitch because it's a little bit different. So for the last stitch, I'm going to not add a new bicone, I'm going to incorporate this first bicone on the end of the row there. So I'm going to sew through that bicone, line up my Cali beads, and treat this as its own unit. So I'm just going to sew through the inner Cali bead, tighten that up. My thread got a little bit caught, so I'll just uncatch the thread. And now sew through the last bicone that we had added before we got to this end unit. And now it's all sewn up into a unit. So I'm going to keep sewing around one more time, just for security. Back through the top Cali bead, through the first bicone that we added on this side, through the inner Cali bead, and up through this bicone, creating a little right angle weave circle. All right, and this completes both sides of our Cali bead and crystal wheel. So the next thing we're going to do is, if you notice, this is a 3-hole bead, and the middle hole is still lonely, so we have to do something with that. So after I get my thread tail out of the way, so now our thread is coming up through one of these bicones. So I'm going to sew through the adjacent hole of the Cali bead right next to it. And now I'm going to sew into the middle hole of this same Cali bead, changing direction. And now that we're here, we're going to start adding check glass mushroom beads between each of the double-decker stacks of Cali beads all along this wheel. So I'm going to pick up one mushroom bead and just sew into the next middle hole of that adjacent Cali bead. And this mushroom just snapped into place. It fits really perfectly between these rows of Cali beads here. So I'm going to do that again. Pick up a mushroom and sew into the middle hole of the next Cali bead. Make sure it's not twisted. And I'm going to keep doing this almost all the way around. So this is the easy part. You're basically just sewing around in a circle, adding these mushroom beads. And the mushroom beads will fit very nicely into the little spaces created between the Cali beads. So just keep sewing around until you get almost to the end, and then I'll show you what to do for the last step. I like this crystal slipperet color because it has some really pretty vibrant violet and blue tones in there, and also a hint of gold, which I think is picked up by the Crystal Metallic Sunshine Bicones. So just keep going, turning the piece as you go. And the mushroom beads are just filling out that space left between the stacks of Cali beads. All right, one more and then we'll get to the last space. Okay, now we've gone almost all the way around, except for this last opening here, and this is where you're going to add your closed jump ring so you can hang the piece. So just as I was stringing a mushroom bead, I'm just going to pick up one closed jump ring and sew into the middle hole of this next Cali bead. Just going to treat it like another bead. And pull tight so it sits nice and snug in there. And I'm going to reinforce this. So I'm just going to sew around through my beadwork. I'll go back through the top hole of the Cali bead, through this bicone. At this point, you're just adding a few extra thread paths for strength. Up through this bicone. And through the middle holes of these two Cali beads and the jump ring again, and my thread caught the mushroom bead here, so why not? I'll sew through that too. Let's make it a really long security pass. And I'll go through this next Cali bead in the middle, come back out the end hole, and over here I'll make a security knot. And then I'm going to sew down through this bicone. And into this next Cali bead. At this point, I'm just freestyling to tie off my thread ends. You can do this however you want. So over here, I'm just going to snip off this thread tail. Next, I just strung my needle on my other thread tail, and I'm just very quickly going to also tie this off. So I'll just go through a few beads. If I were at home, I would make more of a production of it, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to trim this thread right here and call this piece done. So here is your beaded wheel using the Cali beads, Swarovski crystals, and mushroom beads. And the next thing you're going to do is very easy. Just take a finished chain necklace and open it up And you're just going to feed the non-clasp end through this gold jump ring that you attach to the piece. So just run it through the jump ring, fits nice and easy. And now you have your beaded focal on your chain. And that is how to make this Scarborough necklace using 3-hole Cali beads, mushroom beads, and bicones. You can find all of these supplies at beadaholique.com. Thanks for watching!